All right, Mr. Chris Burt, thank you very much for coming on to theboxingbar.com and welcome, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Chris, let's get to know you a little bit, man. Where were you born and raised?
Born and raised in Flint, Michigan.
And what was it like being raised there?
Kind of rough city. I wasn't really much into. My parents were really looking over me. Big time. I'm the youngest of 8 kids, so being the youngest, you get looked out, I guess, a little bit more. Working class city. For me, it was always boxing, always.
And what were you like as a kid growing up? Were you quiet? Were you shy? What were you like?
I was athletic, very. All the kids in my family just played some kind of sports, were athletes, went to college. I was into sport, and I loved football, basketball, played some baseball, and of course box. From the time I was 5 years old. But I really stuck with the boxing more than anything. I was really attracted to the sport at a young age.
And you had a lot of siblings there, and how did you get along with them? What were you guys like at home? What was your household like then?
Oh man, being the youngest, just looking up to the older ones in their sport. It was all about healthy competition, because if one of my siblings would see the other one excelling in a sport, they want to be on that same level. And for me, it was watching my older brothers box, especially my brother Ronnie. He was like the main one in our family at that time. He was runner-up in the Junior Olympics 2 years in a row, and then he was on the national level, always rated high in the top 5 in the nation, going to training camps and these national tournaments. So for me, it was just watching, him excel in the sport, and the dream was to make the Olympics. Somebody in our family just make the Olympics. That's how it was growing up.
When you think back at your first memories of boxing, how do you remember it? I mean, was it you watching it on TV? Was it through your brothers? What are some of the first memories that you have of the sport?
Oh, memories of boxing? Man, that's all my memories. I mean, we watched boxing. It was 3 channels. There was no cable. And if it was cable, we couldn't afford it. But if any boxing on, Wide World Sports, or they used to show the international boxing on CBS in Flint, but it was like, it was out of Lansing. Only the Lansing, Michigan station got the international boxing. So we could barely get that channel in. I mean, and we were so excited watching, U.S. versus Russia, U.S. versus, Cuba or something, their show. And everybody in my family, the boys, the 5 boys, we wanted to be an international. So me and my brother would go downstairs after them, me and my brother Patrick, who's close to me in age, and we would play international. The international fight. I'm from one country, he's from another country. And our toys was boxing gloves. So we boxed all the time. That's all we thought about.
And since you remember the sport from, way back then, and there were some of your first memories, do you remember, what the first time it was like for you to walk into a boxing gym or to spar for the first time?
Oh, my goodness. Then you couldn't start boxing until you were 10, and I don't know how it is now, and maybe for me it was 10 years old when you start boxing, but I was in the gym at 5. I did exhibitions with my brothers and other young kids around the state. I had many exhibitions before I was 10, so I remember that very clear of, especially me and my brother have an exhibition, we would go at it. I mean, people literally would give us standing ovation because we would just go at it as little boxers, just going back and forth. So, I mean, I remember a lot of my boxing, a lot of my little matches that I had, prior to fighting my actual real bout at 10 years old in the Silver Glove. So, and it was fun. To me, it was just, I get to travel a little bit around the state and around my area and get to box, go to the gym and just train with all these older men. My father had a gym since I was born, and he always trained many, many men, always. And young fighters also, but just watching and kind of idolizing the older guys in the gym.
Hey, you talk about these, guys you used to idolize. What were some of your favorite boxers to watch on TV or guys you look up to? Who were some of them?
Where do I begin? It's so many. Of course, Sugar Ray Leonard, because he came to my hometown when he was 6 years old. But we watched everybody, and I just love, Danny Little Red Lopez to Wilfredo Gomez to Salvador Sanchez was our guy. Well, one of our guys. It was the little guys to the big guys. I remember the John Tate, Mike Weaver fight to, of course, they would show Ali fight. You'll see fights like that, Larry Holmes.
So you guys were pretty hardcore because a lot of people bring up Sugar Ray Leonard and guys like that. But when you talk about the smaller guys at that time, like you said, Little Red Lopez and Salvador Sanchez, that's pretty hardcore.
Look, I'm hardcore boxing. I didn't pick up the sport or did the sport just to, because it was something I did. I studied the sport. To this day, I admire fighters. If I would see guys like that, if I see an older fighter like Carl Truth Williams just passed away. I was heavyweight champion. I was in New York. I seen Carl Truth Williams, and to me, that's Carl Truth Williams. I mean, he's somebody super special, and I was heavyweight champion at that time, and I felt like a little kid going up to him and really idolizing him still as his kid. I'm like, I remember when he fought Larry Holmes. I remember when he fought other fights. I'm like, oh my goodness, Carl Truth Williams. So for me, boxers, if I see the older fighters, just from being a kid watching all these great fighters, to me, they still champions in my eyes. I mean, like current champions.
Do you think studying these guys and watching these guys, from a very young age, do you think that helps you out? Do you think it actually helps you out in your career or in your boxing fights? I know Mike Tyson, was like a historian before he even walked into the ring, into the professional ring. He was a historian, having access to all those great fights. Do you think that actually kind of helps you, whether it be because mentally or motivation or whatever? You think that it does help you in the ring?
Well, the thing was with myself, especially me and my brother Patrick, because we were a year and a half apart and we were always together. We tried every style. We would watch a guy, then go try the style, and then watch what they did and try to emulate that. So it helped so much. I tell a lot of young fighters, how much boxing do you watch? But when you watch it, what do you watch? Are you watching a fight or are you studying the guy? Oh, I could try that. I can't do that against the southpaw or a right hand or a guy that throws a great hook or anything. So now you got to study boxing if you want to be a great fighter because it's a style matchup. And for me, just studying styles, man. For my whole life has been about studying styles of boxers and trying what they try and do what they do. So it's a combination of everything you watch. And then you try and you work on it because in boxing, a lot of kids, the coach they show them the basics, as far as showing them how to box. Everything else comes just from being around the sport. And you develop this great style. And what kind of athletic ability you have can generate a great style. Or not, you don't got to be a great athlete, but you still can be a good boxer. But if you're very athletic in a way, you may become this different skill set fighter. So it's different for everybody. But for myself, I studied a lot of boxing. And then when I finally take it serious, very serious, it just all comes together.
You had a very great amateur career. I mean, you went through like everything, all the U.S. amateur championships, Goodwill Games, and all that stuff. And you even went into the '88 Olympic trials, and almost made it there.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. I was number 2 in the United States at 139 pounds when I was 17 years old, and I mean, Olympic year. I'm beating the best of the best, and almost beating Tom Foster, who made the Olympic team, who was the number 1 at 139. A lot of people thought I won in the finals in a great fight, and I lost to him in the Olympic trials, but it was a great learning experience. I mean, it was a blessing to get to the finals of a major tournament in the United States.
Did you get to watch all these great guys that did compete in that?
Oh.
Some of those guys like, one of my favorite guys of all time was Michael Carbajal. Of course, Riddick Bowe and Roy Jones Jr., they all, went on there. Did you get to watch them fight?
Oh, I not only got to watch them, my brother Patrick was in the Pan American Games 1987 with Michael Carbajal, Riddick Bowe. So he made in the scene before I did, and then the next year, I'm in the finals of this major tournament with all these great guys I looked up to in amateur. I'm among them. I was only 17. I was young, but I was like, I knew everybody. I mean, I'm a true boxing, guy in and out, especially, amateur. Oh, my goodness. These guys were superstars to me. And then turning pro, even more superstars. So, and watching all these guys and watching their styles and how they win fights and looking up to them and trying certain things they did, it never changed, growing up. Even when I became a professional, I still was learning from all the boxing I watched. I want to try that. I'm going to do that. Or, it's just part of my life.
I'm not like you right now, Chris. I'm getting very jealous here, man. Listen to you, talk about Carbajal and all these guys and how you were able to watch all that, man. I could only do that on TV now. But you yourself, man, in '92, you got into the Olympic Games. What does that mean to you personally and, professionally? Of course, we know what that means for a boxer to get into that type of game, but what does that mean to you, for your pride and your country and all that stuff? Well, what did that do to you or for you, in your career and for your life?
It was the biggest moment of my life, at that time. It was huge because of the 5 boys that boxed. I got 3 sisters, and one sister boxed professionally, but they didn't have, women boxing then, or you can make the women can make the Olympics. So it was like the last chance for a boy in our household to make the Olympics. That was a dream of our whole household. Then my father becomes the Olympic coach. He was nominated in 1991 at the end of the year, and he's the Olympic coach. But to actually have somebody in our family make the Olympics and compete, it was huge. Something, and a lifelong dream for me because of Sugar Ray Leonard. Coming to my hometown in 1976 with the gold medal, that's what I wanted to be. I want to be an Olympian like him. So making it, our eyes, all of us, all 12 of us that went, our eyes were humongous. They were just big because just the highest level you can get in amateur sport. So it was like a dream come true.
And Barcelona, what was that like being there and being there with Oscar and Montel and Raul Marquez and all these guys that were on your team? How confident were you guys, getting there to Barcelona?
It was a dream because, with all the guys you just talked about, we traveled, literally being at the highest level of amateur in the United States, we traveled the world for 4 years. Prior to it, from 89 to 92, I traveled with a lot of these guys. We know each other, really good. We traveled, we slept in rooms together, we ate, we did everything together. So to actually finally make the dream, which that was, the Olympics, just wow. We're in the Olympic Village with all these athletes and all this stuff just going on. And you kind of get there and forget that, I got to fight. I forget that I'm here to box, not to look at all the sights and be in awe of the moment. It's time to fight. I came here to box. So when you lock in on that, it's a whole different mentality because now I don't want to go home. I want to continue all the way through, which, it's hard. You're fighting against the best in the world, but it worked out for me.
And a lot of kids nowadays, if they're in the amateurs and they don't make it to the Olympic trials or whatever, they just go ahead and become pro. Did staying in the amateurs for those extra 4 years, do you think that it helped you down the line in your pro career?
It helped me because I wasn't mature enough at 17. My body wasn't ready. I was 139 pounds, 6'1", and a thin, skinny rail. And I just wasn't ready. And it was a blessing that I didn't make it because I was totally mature, perfect. I was 21 years old, in the Olympics in 92, so it was the perfect. I filled out as a man now. Now I can compete like I want to, and then turn pro at a great age and compete as a pro. So, but sometimes you can stay too long in amateur, and everybody's body is different. It takes a lot of toll on the body with the training, and you burn yourself out, and, you really, not any good anymore, or as good as you were. You start falling off a little bit, but for me, it was the perfect setting. I'm glad I didn't make the Olympics in 1988 because I probably would have turned pro and then would have had a really dismal professional career. I don't think I would have been as good because I wasn't really mature enough. My body wasn't mature enough to really handle the pro ranks.
You get the silver medal there. And what was it like, man? Standing there and with the medal, around your neck and the music playing and all that stuff. I know I've heard Oscar De La Hoya talk about what it was like for him, but what was it like for you, receiving a medal and, at least coming home with that?
At the time, it was horrible. I can honestly say it. Oscar won his gold medal 2 fights before me. Came in the locker room, I'm like, I'm getting one of them. Looking at his medal, I'm like, I am getting one of them. And they came to me 2 days before our final match, the official, and said, we nominate you. If you win, you'll be outstanding boxer of the tournament. And I was like, wow. To me, that was bigger than winning the medal because being outstanding boxer is meaning I'm the best fighter, basically, pound for pound in the world. I've been the best boxer, pound for pound amateur in the world. And because I did have a great tournament. and to go into the fight with the Cuban. I mean, this was we had similar styles going back and forth, and the computer, which helped me through the whole tournament, betrayed me, I feel. I mean, it was a close fight. The fight was very back and forth, but they gave him 3 of my points. I lost 12-7 in the tightest fight probably ever in Olympic history. Tight, back and forth, and I lose 12-7, and come to find out it should have been 10-9 for me. To give him 3 of my points. And really, if he would have won 10-9, I can see it. I was hurt more by the score than losing the fight, because the first round was 1-1, the second round was 4-4, and then I lose 12-7. He landed 8 points to 3 in the last round. He landed more points in the last round on me than I landed the whole fight. And I'm like, are you serious? I was crushed by the score. Like, this fight is so close, back and forth. I mean, just tit for tat, and I lose 12-7. So when I was on the podium, if anybody see me, I was crying. And I never cried after a fight. And I was crying because of the score. I'm like, this is Olympic finals, and you go score wrong? That's why I criticize the Olympic scoring, the computer system, so much. It is crap. So now it's wiped out, because I feel that, a lot of times a lot of guys don't get a fair shake. And it goes both ways with me. Like, when I fought Chris Johnson in the semifinals of the Olympics, I thought he should have got more points. I personally felt that. First round, I was up 7-1. It should have been really close after the first round, but they gave me a lot of points. So, it's just, to answer your question, I didn't have that happy feeling like Oscar did, because, I lost.
What are your personal thoughts on, you were talking about the Olympic scoring, and, you thought you should have won, and so many people feel the same way. I mean, look what happened to Roy Jones, the Olympics before that. It was considered one of the biggest robberies ever.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is, and what are your opinions on Olympic scoring?
Well, now I guess it's back to traditional way of regular judges instead of computer scoring. But because of Roy Jones, that's why they went to computer. And I just thought the computer, it's really bad. Only how you can have a computer scoring system if you have kids do it, because their reaction and reflexes are way quicker. You can't have older guys doing it, and you forget and push the wrong corner. It's red or blue, and you pushing blue, and the guy in the red hitting, and he's not getting a point, and it eliminates the best fighter in the tournament. It really does, because you may be a 2 or 3 time Olympic gold medalist, and sometimes you're not really that good. You just know the system. And the system is, one, they don't count body shots. All I got to do is cover up, walk to you, and you won't get no points. I just cover up and then try to fight out of a peekaboo style, and a lot of guys win like that. So, you're not really, truly sometimes getting the best boxer out of the Olympics. That's why, like America, a lot of Americans are stylists. You have a few punchers, but they still have good style. Stylist type guy that's boxing, and you don't win no medals. But then they have a good pro career. It's not right. It's like a Fernando Vargas, for instance. Great fighter. Hall of Famer. He didn't win a medal in the Olympics. Hey, he's a great fighter, but computer scoring. Blame it on a computer. That's not, you don't see the true talent in a guy, because you got to adapt and change your style for the computer, not for the boxer, for the computer.
Yeah.
Because if you don't change your style, you're not going to get the point.
At the end of your amateur career, once you knew it was time to finish off there, what was your record, and were you happy with it?
Yeah, I was very happy. I had, honestly, I stopped taking track. I mean, we boxed every weekend, either in a tournament or show. I had international fights before international. My father would drive all through Canada, so we would fight all the Canadian kids all the time. I mean, my father, he probably put 1 million miles on his car to drive it all over the country to boxing shows and tournaments. That's all we did. That was my life. I would leave school probably 2 to 3 Fridays every month for either a boxing show or some kind of tournament far away. So I had hundreds and hundreds of boxing matches. All of us did. From our gym, we always boxed. That was it. That was our life. So, and like I said, I love traveling, so it kept me in the gym. And my father never pushed me to really box. I just wanted to do it because I could travel. So I had hundreds of fights. I mean, I always guesstimate over 300 fights, but I probably had more than that. And lost plenty. I mean, you lose, you fight show. And for me, I didn't really care about you lose. I just wanted to box, especially when I was really young. I just wanted to get in the ring and just go at it because you go back and forth so much, you may lose. Okay, it's whatever. But then you get older, you start, really caring about the win and loss. So I had hundreds of fights.
And in your opinion, do you think it's important to have a nice or lengthy amateur career before you become a pro? I know there's probably a guy that you probably, a name you recognize is Pepe Riley, who's had hundreds of fights and was considered one of the greats, of amateur fighting. But then when he became pro, people say that he might have been burnt out and, he wasn't as good, in the pros. But as an amateur, I mean, he was a standout. Do you think it does help to have a lengthy amateur career?
Well, I mean, the body is so unpredictable of what is going to put out for you, and everybody's different. Everybody's so different. There were so many guys that were great in amateur that didn't make it in pro, and they didn't even have a lengthy amateur career, but they were really good, but they didn't make it as pro. And some guys had long amateur careers and made it great in the professional, and some had, long and didn't make it at all. And like Pepe Riley, who's on my boxing team, it comes down to me is desire. Are you going to keep that fire in you all the way through? Are you going to keep learning, keep honing your skills, and be so determined to be champion, you'll do almost anything. Not, like for me, not illegal substance, not that kind of stuff, but just as far as training and putting in the extra work to get there. So, anything can go wrong with a guy as soon as he turn pro and they have all these expectations for him, and then they don't make it. But, sometimes, you just lose focus. Girls come in the picture, you think you're too big, you don't train as hard, you're not as focused. All these different things come into the picture. Now you got a family, you have a kid, and, so much coming involved, and you can't play with the sport. You got to be dedicated to this thing because it's all kind of guys that want the dream. But as soon as you start climbing up the ladder, and then people patting you on your back saying, oh, you the champ, sometimes you lose focus because, you don't train as hard, you're making a little bit of money, not championship money, but you're making more money than you ever seen, and sometimes you lose focus. And for, majority of the guys, a portion of the guys, it makes you hungrier. Okay, I haven't arrived yet. For me, it made me hungry when people start patting me on my back. Man, you're good. You're going to be in the mix. You could beat this guy. You may be champ one day. But I wasn't champ, so it made me really hungry. So it made me focus, and I wanted the title more than anybody. So it just all depends on the person.